coming out tonight. This is part of our events to promote and recognize the wonderful urban street trees we have and how important they are. And so not only do we plant, but bring awareness to this. And we're really lucky to have Dan Ziomek here with us. I'll let him talk about his background, but he's a local expert. He works at the nursery, or runs the nursery at Sugarloaf Gardens, and a fantastic selection there if you're looking for any trees to plant. And just his knowledge is incredible. He's helped the Greenfield Tree Committee with our nursery and given us a lot of really great advice, which is helping us get trees healthy and ready to plant in Greenfield. Today's event is sponsored by Greenfield
Cooperative Bank.
So we're really excited about that, and I think I'll turn it over to Dan.
Thank you, John.
I bet we can move closer and so
Yeah.
we can hear over that
Yeah.
air exchange.
Well, thank you for having me up here. I've been helping the Greenfield Shade Tree Committee now for 2 years, I guess. We did a tour last year, similar turnout, so that's good to see. Lots of people interested in trees. I've been getting my hands dirty since I was about 8 years old on my cousin's farm in North Amherst, and then went to school out in New York at Cobleskill for nursery management. And then I came back here to UMass and did plant and soil science and worked at Stewart's Nursery, if any of you remember that, in Turner's Falls for a year. And then I got recruited to work at the Hadley Garden Center, or what used to be the Hadley Garden Center on Route 9 in Hadley. Spent 32 years there, and then moved down the street to Wine6 for a couple years, and now I found a new home at Sugarloaf Gardens, and I hope it's my forever home. We're trying to make it better every year. We do have a great selection, as John said, and we're trying to keep it looking good during these trying weather times of 100 degrees and humid days and that kind of thing. We're bringing in fresh material tomorrow and Thursday, so we're not giving up on the season by any stretch. We're trying to keep it looking good, what we have, and bring in some new and fresh material at the same time. So we're going to walk around, do this tour. Most of you have the maps. I'll talk about the trees. If you have any questions, feel free to shout out, and I'll try to answer them. I can't guarantee I can answer all the questions, but I'll try. So we're going to start from right here, actually. If you turn around and look, we've got a matching pair of Circidophyllum japonicum, Katsura trees. It's a beautiful tree from Japan. It gets to be about 50 feet tall eventually. If you look at these two trees right now, here today, the one on the left, you can see the leaves are vibrant and full. If you look at this one on the right, near the church, they're all wilted at the top of the tree. So this tree is under severe drought stress right now. So if there's any way of watering, the Shade Tree Committee could do, or maybe talk to the church and get them to put a hose on it on a slow trickle, that would benefit that tree. Interesting thing about Katsuras is that female trees are multi-stemmed and male trees are single-stemmed. The foliage on them in the fall turns to a pink, orange, red color, and it smells like bubble gum in the fall. Even in the spring when the leaves are coming out, you get a little bit of that bubble gum scent. Some people think it smells like cotton candy. It's a great shade tree, should be used more, but unfortunately it's a little hard to find in the nurseries. We only had 2 of them to start the year. Both have been sold. They just aren't grown readily the way red maples and sugar maples and other things are grown. Yes?
The male versus female, multi-stem, can you explain that?
Sure. So if you look at both of these trees, they start out with a single trunk from the ground. If this was a female tree, they would start out from the ground with multiple leaders coming from the ground. And probably 15 or 20 years ago, we had the largest female Katsura in the country east of the Mississippi in the center of Amherst by Grace Church. And unfortunately, they cut that tree down because they thought one of the limbs was going to break off and crush a car or a person. So that tree is no longer there. But you can still see the tree in Michael Durr's photographic trees of North America, I think he calls it, or something like that. I have a copy down at the nursery if you ever want to see that tree before they cut it down. It had probably 4-foot diameter trunks on it.
Dan, if it's not a native tree, is it still okay to plant?
Absolutely. I think given our climate change and conditions that are changing as far as the urban environment is concerned, we need to be using as many different trees as we can, be they native or from Japan or China. As long as they're not invasive, I think it's important we use a lot of different trees. And I'll talk more as we walk along here about some of the trees that are having problems right now. For instance, there are no beeches on this tour, but we now have a new insect/disease problem on beeches called beech leaf disease, which is pretty much going to wipe out the American and European beech here in New England, unfortunately. There is currently no control for this thing. Bartlett Tree is trying some different things, but so far they haven't found a control. And that's going to really affect our forest canopy, because American beeches in the forest create a lot of canopy and they feed a lot of wildlife out there in the forest. So you can see that happening even down in Amherst. It's probably happening up here too. The ones I drive by all the time are by the Amherst Golf Club on West Street. They're all infected with beech leaf disease. Cause the leaves to turn black first, then they curl up, and then the tree will try and push out new growth, which will come out a really light green, and then those will get infected. It's caused by a nematode, which is a microscopic worm that gets between the layers of the leaf, feeds there, and at the same time spreads this disease problem. So that's an unfortunate thing that's happening with beeches. But there are a whole host more of trees we can't plant anymore. Canadian hemlock has woolly adelgid. We're going to talk about ashes, which are across the street, and you can see the tops of those trees dying. Those have been treated, some of them, for the emerald ash borer, but that insect is very devastating, and unfortunately we can't plant ashes anymore. Sugar maples. We all love sugar maples, but between climate change, the new salt they're using, and this disease called verticillium wilt, it's making it really difficult to plant sugar maples anymore. The new salt really is devastating to street sugar maples. The verticillium wilt and the climate change is affecting the ones in the forest. So lots of sad news on the tree front, and that's why I think we need to use the whole selection of trees, be they native or from other countries. So we're standing under what is a pretty massive pin oak, Quercus palustris. If I was to guess, I'd say this is about 70 feet tall. Nice spread on it, probably about 40 or 50 feet wide. Pin oaks have very sharp pointed leaves. They turn an orangey brown in the fall. This is probably 150 to 200 years old. You can see the root system is raising up. I'm sure they've had to replace this sidewalk a few times because of this oak. They've limbed it up in some places. We've got a little bit of decay going on one of these pruning wounds, but overall this is a pretty healthy tree. Full size, about 80 to 90 feet tall on this tree. The leaves drop late. That's why a lot of cities and towns don't like it. It makes cleanup a pain, and they drop acorns. So you don't see a lot of oak trees planted along city streets throughout town because of the mess the acorns make. They worry about trip and falls on the acorns, which creates a liability issue. So that's why they don't use oaks. But oaks are very adaptable. They get massive, they provide a lot of shade, and they last a long time. They're good, sturdy wood. Yeah. Yeah. But as we walk here, you won't see many oaks planted along the city streets. It's a tree that they don't recommend on city streets very often. Sorry about that. If we turn around and look at this red maple, there's a tree in decline. You know, you can see the dead limbs on it, the thinning of the canopy. Unfortunately, that tree's probably only got about 5 or 7 years left. That's not on the tour, but I just thought I'd make note of it, that it is in decline, unfortunately. So the Shade Tree Committee ought to find a replacement for that pretty soon. Any questions on the pin oak? We'll see another one in a little bit. Yes?
I have a question kind of about the pin oak, which I know in the wild is a floodplain tree, but here it's not on floodplain. And you were pointing out that Katsura needs watering. So I was here watering this property this morning. The water runs off.
Yeah.
The ground is so compacted. I guess because the guy on the rider mower has been compacting it for who knows how long.
So it's the compaction, you know, of years and years of the mower, but also people walking over it, the type of soil it is. The best thing I could recommend for that Katsura for the long term is to get a tree company in here to aerate the roots around the tree. And then add some compost or something to the soil around the tree.
Okay.
They use these
Air spades.
I recognize you.
No, I'm not
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they use air spades to aerate around the roots and clear away some of the soil, and then you put back compost and soil combined.
So for 4 years I've been recommending we leave those leaves, get them off the sidewalk to try to improve the soil. It's not a popular,
Yeah, it's probably not going to work in the long term because of how compacted the soil is in the first place.
Okay.
You need to talk to Nardowitz and get them in here with an air spade and aerate around both of these trees.
Got it. All right. All the trees. Think
Yeah.
it'll help the maple?
The maple's too far gone.
Yeah, that's what I say too.
All of the red maples that the town planted 40 years ago. And they're just at the end of their life cycle. Yeah.
Any other questions?
How long does spin-offs usually last? It's an old tree.
300 years if it's taken care of. Yeah. Yeah. One problem they make for street tree planting is that the lower branches always want to bend down. So the town has to come in and keep limbing it up as those lower branches bend down. And that's probably what's happened here over the years. The ginkgo tree. And hopefully this is a male hybrid because the female drops fruit that are quite odoriferous, we'll say. Not pleasant. You can see that fan-shaped leaf on them. This is the oldest tree known to man. These leaves have been found in fossils going back thousands of years. So that's an interesting thing in and of itself. It's a great street tree, very adaptable to soil conditions, pollution, all kinds of different things. So it's one we should be planting more of. The other interesting thing about ginkgos is that they drop all of their leaves in one night. They all get to a certain stage and they all come down in one night. So they'll turn yellow in the fall. This is a pretty mature ginkgo. This is probably at least 75 or 80 years old, I would say. Very slow growing when they're young. That's why they're so expensive when you come to the nursery, because it takes probably 7 to 10 years for a nursery to grow it up to caliper size to where they can sell it. So that's why they're quite expensive when you come to the nursery. But a great tree and one we should be planting more of. Questions on the ginkgo? Yes?
Since they're male and female trees, is it better or worse to have just one species, one or the other?
Well, we only sell male hybrids because nobody wants the fruit. You can still occasionally find the female trees or unsexed trees, but most of these hybrids that we sell are patented and known to be male trees. It doesn't affect the species at all not having female trees because they're grafting them for the most part anyway. Right. Anybody else? We get rid of the motorcycles, we get the train. It's one of those nights. So right above our heads is Zelkova serrata, another Japanese tree, very similar to our American elm. It has a very vase shape to it, similar yellow fall color.
Just always had bubbles?
No. Couple things about Zelkovas is they're very brittle, and if we get heavy wet snow or we get an ice storm, they will break apart, unfortunately. But they are fast growing, very pollution tolerant. They can take compacted soil, as you can see from this pit that it's planted in. So they are a decent street tree, provided we don't get any ice or wet snow. Again, very fast growing and a similar look to our elms. They'll top out at about 40 to 50 feet tall. So this could get bigger than the buildings here. Any questions on Zelkova?
Would you want to prune that one so there's not quite so much? Should it have been pruned so there's not quite so much?
It should have been pruned when it was younger, but it was not, and now it's too late. Would you agree? It should have been pruned to a single leader when it was younger and gotten taller.
Yeah.
It has interesting exfoliating bark on the bottom, patches of rusty brown and that kind of thing. I know when they built the Amherst police station, again 25, 30 years ago, my father ordered 3 or 5 Zelkovas for the front of the police station. He was the tree warden in Amherst at the time. We planted them, they grew beautiful, and then in that October snowstorm of 2010, I think it was, 3 out of the 5 split apart and they had to take them down. So that's an unfortunate thing about Zelkova.
Back to the tree in Amherst that was cut down. It was, in your mind, was there a way to have trimmed it?
They had already cabled it, so they did everything they could up in the top of the canopy. Maybe they could have gotten rid of that one trunk that was ready to fall on the road and not taken the whole tree out. But I can't remember the whole backstory of why they took the whole tree out.
So if it's from Japan, do native insects and birds learn to like it?
Not necessarily. It all depends on the tree species. Like crab apples are from other places, not necessarily native, and birds and some insects will feed on that. But this one, not so much.
Not so much.
Yeah. All right. So right here we've got a couple Gladitia triancanthos, honey locusts. These are a couple of thornless honey locusts. Back in the day when I first started, these were hard to get. The honey locusts would come in with about 2-inch thorns on them, and nobody wanted to handle them. So the breeders got to work and created some thornless honey locusts. These are probably Shade Master, which is the most common green one that's planted. There's also a gold one called Sunburst. They're a relatively fast-growing tree when their roots aren't compacted and they're not drying out the way these two are. They'll get to be about 35 or 40 feet tall. They give a nice light shade that you can grow grass underneath. So good for homeowners growing grass. And they have small leaves which are easy to clean up in the fall. There are a few insect problems on them. Webworms can actually totally defoliate this plant. There are a few disease issues as well. But these two so far don't have that. I know the ones down at the Hampshire Mall in Hadley get them every year, the webworms, where they get defoliated. So honey locust.
Why are they so packed in?
Well, we're walking on top of them. Everybody else is walking on top of them. The soil here is not the greatest. It looks like solid clay. If you look at this one, you can see the rock hard clay around the base of them. People are probably sitting in the chairs and kicking the trees. I can see a big wound on the bottom of that tree. And so there's a lot of things going on that are causing trouble for these two trees. People don't respect trees the way they should.
Are they heat tolerant?
They're very heat tolerant. You see them down south a lot. So we're standing here under golden rain tree, and you can see the flowers on it. There's lots of pollinators on them up there. Honeybees mostly is what I'm seeing, but I'm sure there's other pollinators up there as well. This is an introduced species from China, but the yellow flowers are nice in the summertime. It's got a pinnately compound leaf, very similar to that honey locust, so cleanup is easy in the fall. These small leaves fall off, and then eventually this whole stem will fall off. so it makes cleanup easy. It's a fast growing tree. It's very adaptable to pollution and compaction and other things, and it's relatively hardy. It's not one that I would recommend planting, but because of its adaptability, it is a good street tree. It'll get to about 35 or 40 feet tall. We do have 3 of these at the nursery right now that are also in full bloom. So if you want something a little different that gives you a fast growing shade, you can try golden rain tree.
What don't you like about it?
It's kind of weedy looking to me. It doesn't have a nice shape. The bark doesn't do anything really special on it. We'll see a couple trees coming up that do have nice bark on them. It doesn't feed the birds really, but it does feed the pollinators. So dead limbs are just attractants to insects and disease. They make their way in through the dead limbs.
Oh, is that right?
So these are Crataegus verdus, is what Mary is calling them, green hawthorns. They're probably the winter king variety. This is a nice flowering tree. It has white flowers in the spring, orange fruit this time of year or even later. But if you look at these fruit up close, they're all infected with cedar apple rust. So they will probably never mature enough so that the cedar waxwings can eat them. They are relatively thornless, so a little easier to handle than the old Washington hawthorns that I had to deal with at Stewart's Nursery that were full of 1.5-inch long thorns. When Jim Stewart was mad at you, he made you go out and tie up Washington hawthorns. Or prune Sergeant crab apples, one or the other. Yeah, there must be cedars nearby somewhere. It can be wind and rain carried quite a ways. And you can see it's not affecting the foliage very much, whereas on crab apples, quite often the foliage and the fruit are infected. Also, serviceberry get infected, both foliage and fruit. But on this hawthorn, it seems more just the fruit infected. The browning you're seeing on the leaves is actually probably sunburn or drought stress from some of those hot days we had a week or 2 ago. Cedar apple rust?
Yeah.
You can spray. You can spray early in the spring, or you can remove the cedar wherever it may be. You'd have to look around and try and find it. Because the cedar is an alternate host. It spends the winter on the cedar, the summer on the hawthorn.
It's a fungus?
It is a fungus. Very common. Wind and rain born, and we had a very rainy spring. But you can see the fruiting bodies of the cedar apple rust starting to poke out of the fruit here. And they will be sending the spores back to the cedar shortly. The birds won't touch the fruit once they're infected with the rust.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they'll never mature to where the birds can eat them. They'll shrivel up and be rock hard in short order. So we're not looking at the hawthorn here in front, we're looking at the birch tree in back. That's Betula nigra. That's the species river birch, which is truly a native. It gets this nice exfoliating bark, which you can see on the one on the left here, much better. Patches of reddish brown and gray. This tree will get to be about 50 feet tall, relatively fast growing, somewhat adaptable to soil conditions. It prefers a little extra moisture, which I'm sure it's not getting here, but can adapt to less moisture. Further to the left, I believe those are heritage river birches, which are showing more white in the bark, or at least that one is there, versus these two, which are typical river birches. Heritage is what we sell the most of. It's got the white bark, which people want, but it's also borer resistant, which most birches are not borer resistant. For instance, paper birch, which is the one everybody always wants, is not borer resistant. So that's why we, about the same, 40 to 50. Yellow fall color. They drop their leaves relatively early in the fall as well. So you can stagger your leaf cleanup. This is another one where the branches want to bend down as they head out from the lower part of the trunk, so you often have to limb them up. I also found when I had my own nursery that if I limbed up the smaller river birch, the bark would turn white sooner, just from sun exposure. So interesting thing about river birch. So this is Sassafras albidum, or sassafras. It has 3 different types of leaves on it, although I can only find one right now down here. Maybe if somebody looks harder, they can see it. So they have this rounded leaf. They have one that looks like a mitten. And then, I gotta look because I forget, they have a 3-lobed leaf as well. I'm right in the sun. Gets a nice fall color, kind of an orangey red fall color. It'll get to about 25, 30 feet tall here in New England. It will create a grove. It will send suckers up from its root system. So it will get thicker and thicker. You can see the interesting branching on it. What else can I tell you about it? It's a relatively fast growing tree when it's in the right habitat. It likes it again like the river birch on the moist side. But it's a neat native tree, one you don't see very often, and these are probably 30 years old roughly.
And you can make ginger ale out of them?
Yes, you can. You can make sarsaparilla.
And ecstasy
Oh,
from the roots.
there you go. I did find some, the 3-lobed ones. Oh, here's a mitten.
So I was going to say, do they sucker a lot?
So you can see the mitten there.
Yeah.
And there's the 3-lobed leaf. And then the rounded lobe.
Nice.
So we're down with the 3
Yep.
shapes, but up higher up, why are they all the same shape?
That's a good question. It could be stress. It could be a lot of different things. These are young suckers down here that are probably growing more rapidly, and that's why they have the 3 lobes. I'm not quite sure. I can't say for sure why you're not seeing the 3 different types up above.
Does it have something affecting it? It looks.
Oh, it definitely has some stress going on, and again, needs some pruning in there.
Yeah.
That could be winter injury from last winter. You know, we had the drought going into the winter, and then we had a really cold winter, and we saw a lot of winter damage on trees. Some I haven't seen winter damage on, like emerald green arborvitae. I haven't seen winter damage on those in a long time, but we had a lot of it this winter. And redbuds took a beating, and native dogwoods took a beating. So rhododendrons took a beating.
Yeah.
So that's what I would blame this on, is winter injury.
And if you cut it back, the tree will be fine.
Yep.
Yeah.
It might send out a sucker from there, you don't know.
But are these mostly in the south?
They're a little more southern than here. This is like their northern limit.
But now we're getting warmer.
Yep. So we'll be able to grow more tree species, for better or worse.
Yeah.
That's sumac. That's a good question. I have to look at Tree of Heaven. I usually just close my eyes when I go by it. Have to go down to Springfield to find some Tree of Heaven too.
Not common up here.
No, not yet.
Right, we just got here. Okay.
Yeah. It could be.
Sumac for now.
Yeah. Because we don't want Tree of Heaven here because it also attracts what's the new lantern flies. Yeah. So anyway, they're in Springfield, so it's only a matter of time before they get up here, I think. Anyway, we're talking about Chinese elms. That's what we're standing under. A relatively fast-growing tree, resistant to Dutch elm disease. Smaller leaves than our elm. It doesn't have that sandpapery feel to the back of the leaf either that you get on an American elm. But as we walked down into the park, there was a dead elm on the side I saw. So elms are struggling right now. Dutch elm disease is still present. The elm bark beetle is still present that spreads the Dutch elm disease, so Chinese elms are a better choice. However, this is a very difficult tree to find in the trade. Not a lot of nurseries growing it. So when you do find it, it tends to be on the pricey side. We can find all kinds of hybrids of American elms like Patriot and Jefferson. There's a few others. Yeah. So Princeton is out there, but they did find that Princeton is being attacked by Dutch elm now. The fellow from Bartlett was here last year, and he said that they're being attacked by Dutch elm. The other thing is they grow so fast, they require a lot of corrective pruning at a young age, and probably some cabling at a relatively young age, so that they don't break apart. So Bartlett doesn't recommend hybrid American elms all that much. I don't know if Nardowitz does. They've got some of those planted at UMass.
Down some in Northfield.
Yeah. A little more readily available than Chinese elm too. The reason we planted elms on the streets was because they branched above the power lines and then they would arch over the power lines. But of course we planted them one after the other just like these Chinese elms are planted, and when Dutch elm disease came in, it was able to go from one tree to the next to the next. And that's why arborists now and tree wardens are recommending a variety of trees along the streets, not planting the same species over and over again. And that's again why sugar maples are struggling, because when Dutch elm came in and wiped out the elms, most cities and towns went in and planted sugar maples, one after the other after the other. And now they're all succumbing to one thing or another. Oh, it sure is. It sure is. The maple syrup industry is going to move northward until it can't move northward anymore. That's mostly because of climate change. Sugar maples need a cold winter, and we're not having those anymore. So these are Fraxinus pennsylvanica, green ash. Anybody know the ash's claim to fame?
Baseball bats.
Baseball bats. They used to make baseball bats out of green ash. Now, because of emerald ash borer, they're finding alternatives. This tree will get to be about 50 or 60 feet tall. Like the sugar maple, it was such a good street tree, a lot of cities and towns, especially in the Midwest, planted green ashes one after the other. And now they're succumbing to this emerald ash borer. It's a fast-growing tree, can withstand pollution, relatively strong wood, except in really extreme storms, then it'll break apart a little bit. But the emerald ash borer is pretty much taking it out of the running as a tree we would sell at the nursery. It's been probably 15 years since I sold an ash tree in the nursery, and that was well before emerald ash borer, because people just weren't interested. I know Stewart's used to grow quite a few ashes in the nursery because they planted them along the highways and that kind of thing. But again, with emerald ash borer, you're going to see fewer and fewer of these trees planted anywhere. Yeah, many of them have been treated to try and stop the emerald ash borer. That's why some of them look healthier than others. They inject the trunk with a chemical that kills the ash borer when it feeds on the tree.